number 17 is all about hypothesis tests, and the instructions state: test stated claims, show your claim, hypotheses, your testing statistic, T or Z, p-value, decision about the null hypothesis, and your conclusion about the claim. For my class, you don't actually need to do the testing statistic. All you need to provide is the p-value, and that will earn you full credit. So let's start with A. Professor Bilgewater claims that the average on his tests is 75. A random sample of 31 of the professor's students averaged 72.3 on a recent test, with a standard deviation of 10.0. Test the claim using a level of significance of 10%. Okay, so what we need to do is first come up with what the null and the alternative hypotheses are, and that's going to be based on the claim. The claim here is up in the first sentence, is that the professor claims the average on his test is 75. So mu is equal to 75. And since it has that equals in it, that means we're going to put this in the null hypothesis, and I'll go ahead and mark that that was my claim. Which means the alternate hypothesis or alternative hypothesis is going to be mu is not equal to 75. Right, so there's that. Now, next up is the p-value. We'll need to calculate it. And we use the calculator under the stat menu and over to tests. And we just have to decide which test we're using. So we are testing a mean here because we're testing the average on the tests, which means we're going to be using the t-test function. And everything's coming out of statistics. Let's check that. The mean from the null hypothesis was 75. The mean from the sample was 72.3. The standard deviation of the sample is 10. And the sample size is 31. And then the symbol in the null hypothesis is not equal to, so we go ahead and calculate. So we get 0.1432. Now, if you're in a class that you need to provide both the p-value and the test statistic, the calculator goes ahead and provides that test statistic for you right here. That's the answer, negative 1.503, however many decimals your instructor asks for. But in my class, the p-value is all you need. All right, so then in order to make a decision, we need to compare that p-value, which is 14.32%, to the alpha level. And the alpha level is 10%. Well, the p-value is the largest here. And the rule is, if p is low, then the null must go. So the p is high in this case, which means we reject the null hypothesis. I'm sorry, fail to reject the null hypothesis. Typing and thinking at the same time. It wasn't working all that well for me. Now we just need to fill out our interpretive sentence. Okay, so what we can say here is, since we failed to reject the null hypothesis, we'll put the words is not in the first blank. And the original claim was in the null hypothesis, so we were trying to reject the claim. So there is not enough evidence to reject the claim that the average on Professor Bilgewater's tests is 75. So remember, fail to reject, you put is not. Reject the null hypothesis, you put is. If your claim's in the null, you're trying to reject it. If your claim's in the alternative, you're trying to support it. So it's as simple as that.